Hello and welcome back everybody to another episode of the Layout Build series. Before we get into today's topic, I want to show off a boxcar that I recently weathered. I only did one side and I will say it took quite a long time. I want to give a shout out to Dan's Railroad 2011 on YouTube for the very good tutorials on how to weather. So today's video is all about ballasting. I'll be going over how I do it in full detail, and I will also show how to ballast those pesky turnouts. Here is pretty much everything you will need. This time I'll be using fine ballast, which is made by Woodland Scenics. The color I'm going with is a gray blend. They do have a good selection of ballast, but there are also other companies who make more unique colored rock. I use 70% isopropyl alcohol, which is applied with a dollar store spray bottle. For glue, I'm using Mod Podge Matte mixed with water. And lastly is a brush that is wide enough for the tracks and a very small bottle. Once everything is done, the track should look like this. This is a picture of my local yard, and the ballast, as you can tell, is a little bit sloppy. I like to use this as an example because it shows that it does not need to be perfect to be realistic. To make things easier, I will remove my warehouse. Let's first start with a small section of track. I begin by pouring some ballast directly down the middle of the tracks. One big tip to consider is to not pour too much. You can always add more later on very easily. Then I go along the sides of the track, adding enough just to cover the ties. Other spots between tracks like this that are open can be filled with ballast or with dirt. Once I have a good amount of ballast down, I can now use the brush to spread it evenly. Because the brush is as big as the track, it makes the process much easier. Your finger will come in handy, because it will help with getting those small bits off the ties. One thing to keep an eye out for is the ballast that gets pushed up against the rails. To avoid this, you can use your brush to tap the rails, and gravity will do the rest. Alright, so now I'm going to show a little time lapse of the whole process together. When you're doing this, you may come across some holes on your layout, like this one for my feeder wire. And if you don't do anything about it, the ballast will fall right through. So all I do is I use a small piece of paper towel to fill it. Problem solved. I'll be getting it all done except the turnouts. Those will be done last. After a good while, we are now done with the ballasting, and we are fully prepared for gluing. Just like with my dirt, I use isopropyl alcohol to break up the surface tension. Time for the glue. I start by going directly down the middle, just like when we applied the ballast. And then I go on the sides. I try to avoid going on the top of the rails, but if you do, it's okay because it can be cleaned. After it's all dried, I give the layout a very good vacuum. This will expose any spots that weren't glued well enough. Alright, so now we're going to finally ballast one of the turnouts. Some say it cannot be done, but I say it can. I will say though, I do hate ballasting turnouts. The main thing is to avoid getting ballast in the middle tie. That's obviously where the functionality part of it is. The only real thing that I'm doing differently is I'm being much more precise and I'm using much less ballast. If you do get any little bits in that no-no spot, you can easily just use a brush to brush it out. Now that I'm happy with how it looks, we can glue it. The most important aspect of gluing turnouts is coming back every so often to switch the switch. If you don't, you might come back with a solid turnout. It's now the following day and I could breathe a breath of fresh air knowing that I do not have to do much ballasting anymore. One thing I did do was I piled up some of the ballast at the end of the spur, and this is an easy way to make a bumper while you're doing this. And look at that, the turnout is still functional. Of course, if you are using a tortoise switch or things like that, this will be a slightly different process. If you are wondering how you clean your rails, if you did maybe get some glue on them, you can use a wood dowel, which is non-abrasive and won't scratch your tracks. It really works well to get that grime off. Let's turn on the layout and make sure we are all good in the electrical department, which we are. Enjoy the last few clips, and as usual, I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.